let go of those riches, and so he lost out. So you can imagine Jesus illustrated going through the narrow gate. This man forces himself through the narrow gate, sweating and just giving it everything he's got. And then he reaches back and grabs his bag of riches and can't get those through. And it's just stuck there at the gate, losing out, immobilized. So after having spoken to this man and seeing him going away grieved, there in the middle of verse 24, Jesus turns to his disciples and says, "Children, how difficult a thing it is to enter into the kingdom of God. It is easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God." So here Jesus draws a very definite line and says, riches will distract you. Riches will keep you out of the kingdom of God. And if you put this together with Jesus' other counsel about keeping a simple eye, then you can see a very clear formula. Less riches, more of a simple eye, easier to serve Jehovah. But the disciples are distraught. If you look down in verse 26, and they respond, "Who in fact can be saved?" And they say, if it's this difficult, a camel going through a needle's eye, who can do this? But Jesus replies with a very straightforward answer and tells us as well exactly what we need to do. And in verse 27 he says, "With men it is impossible, but not so with God. For all things are possible with God." So by relying on Jehovah, we can do the seemingly impossible. Rely on Jehovah, but that is required. If we rely on our own strength, Satan's world will swallow us up. And then, of course, Peter has his input, as we could expect. There in verse 28, he says, "Look, we've left all things and are following you." And so there's another point. He more than likely wasn't trying to make a point there, but he said that they have left all things. So by fully committing to following Christ, the Apostle Peter found it easier to follow the Christ. So on our part, by simplifying our life and fully committing to being a Christian, and then on Jehovah's part, him providing his Spirit to help us, we can endure to the end. You can illustrate it this way. Say you have a car and it's a real piece of junk. Kind of like our bus, where it's very imperfect, it has its problems, doesn't run very good, but it has an alignment issue. It pulls to the right very hard. I'm sure we've all had a car that does that. So you're driving and you have to constantly pull it back to the left to keep it on the road, and it takes constant correction. You have this trip to go on, a 100-mile trip, and you've been driving 95 miles, 96 miles, and you're getting tired and exhausted. And you tell yourself, you know what, you need a break. Just relax for a little while. Just let go. What's going to happen? You're going to go right in the ditch. The same ditch that you would have gone in 50 miles ago. So it is important that we keep striving on, enduring to the end, and keep correcting ourselves so that we can make it to the end of that 100-mile trip. And then Jesus gives us some very nice comfort there in verse 29. He shows us how it's all worth it. He says, "Truly I say to you men, no one has left houses or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for my sake and for the sake of the good news, and will not get 100-fold now in this period of time, houses and brothers and sisters and mothers, children and fields, with persecution, and in the coming system of things, everlasting life." So no matter what Satan has to offer us, Jehovah says, I'll give you that 100-fold and everlasting life.